Gonna move on next to Brent Morgan.
Okay, so appreciate the opportunity to join the group and have this conversation. Uh, that was Ryan. That was some excellent information. I took a bunch of notes on that, so thank you. I'm going to reach out probably in the future. That was awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about how we at Oregon DOT developed our TSMO performance management plan. Just a little background on me. I joined ODOT about 16 years ago. Spent my first 10 years working as a supervisor for a dispatch operation up in Portland. We also supervised the incident response team. So got a little bit of background there. And then transferred down here to our ITS and operations group as the traveler information and performance management coordinator. Our first iteration of our performance management plan was in 2017. And at that time, I was in the supervisory position and part of the group that got all together to attend a workshop, which was had representatives from maintenance, operations, communications, and a whole bunch of other groups. And we actually used a consultant to help us put this plan together, and then refreshed it in 2021. One thing about plans is lots of us have plans. Lots of our plans are on the shelves. And we've tried really, really hard to keep this plan influencing what we're doing on a regular basis. Looking back at it, and probably coming up on the 5th year of since we revisited this, I think it's probably time to revisit it again next year. And certainly some of the resources available now, including the Tom Guides, are probably going to be influential on how we progress forward. I'll post a link where you can find our plan after the presentation. Through the stakeholder group, we developed 7 program areas that we are focusing on. Many other areas were discussed, but some of them were merged into these categories. Some of the categories started out pretty narrow, and we expanded them out a little bit so that we can encompass other areas. So we ended up with our performance management plan. We tracked system performance and then used that data to help shape future decisions. Much like Ryan, we started out with mostly operations data from our TMCs. But now we also have added a lot more data into our systems, lots of asset data, lots of non-operational types of data. We now use this to help shape our future decisions, track the improvements and the declines, if there are declines, and then keep course correcting along the way. So the content of each of these sections, each of the 7 sections have their own areas, but we have an executive summary ahead of that, obviously a brief version. But then we talk in depth about why the goals were chosen for each of the performance area, the program area performance management pieces. We break down each goal and implemented the different goals into short-term, medium-term, and long-term priority levels, so that we could stay focused on the things that we wanted to get done quickly, and some of the things that were going to take us a lot longer to, in many cases, just develop the data so that we had something to use. Probably one of the biggest pieces to this puzzle was identifying primary audiences and then a communications action plan. And we felt it was really important to use that communications plan to try and develop a feedback loop so that we could talk about what the audience would need, develop with their help, present it to them, what we were able to come up with, and then get feedback from these folks based on the information that we were giving them. That feedback loop is really a critical component to keeping them engaged and providing the audience with the things that they need. So lots of data, lots of information, and lots of different audiences. So we use the reports in the mostly Power BI is what we use, some SSRS, but we use these reports to engage different levels of stakeholder with a whole bunch of different mediums. So we do an annual report. That's actually transitioning now to a biennial report, matching. Well, there's lots of reasons, but starting this year, it'll be biennial. So we'll probably, well, our biennium ends in the end of June. We'll probably have everything out and ready to go a couple of months after that. But it's being retooled from what was originally designed to be a practitioner's report. The new style of report will be designed to include agency leadership, legislators, other, I guess, higher level types of an audience for that annual report. Of course, we have our TIM teams and lots of TIM performance measures backing up their operation, a TIM newsletter. The Inside ODOT and MainCom newsletters are more practitioner based. They're more internal audience, and it's just a good way for us to share and continue again with that feedback loop. And of course, lots of data goes into the presentations that we make as a branch and as a department. We do have a self-service portal where many of our reports, not all of our reports, but many of our reports are available. They're available to anyone within the agency. As I mentioned, most of them are Power BI. Some of them are older and need to be redeveloped. But we've broken this down so that each of the 7 areas that we're focusing on, we break down their core performance measures and put the reports underneath that. And then each of the areas kind of has a couple of different sub areas, and most of them have process support reports where it's not necessarily a core report, but it's something that has been asked for and delivered. Notice at the top left, we do have some dashboards, some just quick lookups. You can look up what happened yesterday, both at a dispatch level and at an incident response or traffic incident management level. And then, like I said, these other process support reports vary greatly between the different 7 groups. So one of the things that we've been working on heavily in the last probably year and continuing, I'm still working on it. It's a project that I'm working on later today, is our operational assets, the condition rating specifically. But you can see we do just an asset count based on our regions. And then we're looking at design life and whether or not they're past that, and signal ratings, and also our structures. So drilling down into that asset report, this is our look at our assets, shows us where they are located, what percentage is beyond their life, their design life. And of course, with the Power BI, if you're familiar with that, you can click on a category or a region or a device category, the map, and really narrow down, drill down further into what this is telling you. Similar report for our conditions, the signal condition rating. So we track all of the signals that are maintained or owned by ODOT. Lots of signals that we simply maintain but don't own, but those are, you know, something that we need to track separately. We track them both separately and collectively here. Signals are rated annually when we're performing our preventative maintenance, and this keeps us in pretty good shape as far as keeping an idea of where we're at and what we need to work on. So a lot of the asset information ends up going into a conversation that we have every couple of years, and how we split some of our funding and make decisions based on that. So our state transportation investment plan, a lot of it has to do with assets, some rock falls and landslides and some other influences in there also, but the majority of it is asset driven, and past design life is a big part of the conversation. So we give these tools to our maintenance leadership teams, and let them influence budget decisions for that pot of money. Stepping away from the assets a little bit, this is an example of one of many work order reports that we use for tracking and monitoring. In addition to, this is an electrical work order, so mostly signals and lighting and assets like that. We also have a different report that tracks our ITS assets like cameras and ARWIS. We have a test chamber that we use, probably many of you do, where we do environmental testing on our signals and cabinets. There's a work order process involved with that, oftentimes involving cities and counties that are running their equipment through our systems. So we have a work order tracking report for that. Several others. Software is a big one, if I didn't mention that already. So this helps us just, you know, track those assets, track those work orders, see which ones are out of bounds, frankly. Shape staffing decisions based on the number and location of work orders. You know, do we have 5 techs in Portland? Do we need 10? Do we need 50 total? Do we need 200? A lot of data now is able to go into those decisions rather than kind of the anecdotal, well, we feel like we need. So it's nice to have data to help us track with that. Contact information, should you wish to get a hold of me at some point in time. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. One question for you. How often is the performance management plan, like the goals, how often are those reviewed and or updated?
Formally, I'd like to, we're trying to do that every 5 years. As far as reviewed, my team and I certainly are using that as a regular check-in. It's part of my annual work plan. And yeah, we're checking in on a regular basis. Again, you know, if you have a plan and you put it on the shelf, it isn't doing you much good.
And then just moving forward, any thoughts for folks on use of the TOM and, you know, when it comes to performance management and, you know, what can that do for a program?
Yeah, so, you know, we didn't have that as a guide when we first started this walk down the path, and it, you know, being here now, I think we should definitely be using it to influence our decisions and bounce it against the plan that we have as we're looking at revising it. I think that's going to be a really good opportunity to have that type of guidance.
Okay, and then one more question. Does ODOT have the necessary funding allocation for maintenance to address the your identified needs?
For now, there's a lot of politics that are going on in Salem as we speak. As of yesterday, some of it I've only gotten a really quick glance at, and I don't know that I understand all the implications. So it's really in flux.
So the jury's still out. Is that what you're saying?
So in the past, part of that STIP funding that I talked about has been very useful in the things that we're doing. One of the proposals that I saw as of last night was to eliminate the STIP funding. But that was last night. It's just a proposal, and I don't claim to fully understand what they intend to do. So lots of conversations. And this is where, the performance data and the performance plans come into, the spotlight really shines on them. We're going to need this information so that we can have the conversations and make sure that we all understand what that proposal means.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Brent. It's great information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.